call the meeting, the Cicero Park Board on September 4th at 5 p.m. The meeting will come to order. Will the secretary please do a roll call?
Dan Strong.
Present.
Mary Devlin.
Present.
Clayton Bell. Present. Susan Sparks.
Present.
Amy Wolf.
Present. So do I declare a quorum present? So we do have a quorum, so we declare that a quorum is present. Let's see, everybody could look at the, I'm not sure how we say this for the agenda. Do we need to approve the agenda? Okay.
Is there any additions or corrections?
Are there any additions or corrections to the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Any second?
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
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 If everyone would look at the prior minutes, are there any additions or corrections to the minutes?
I don't have any.
Would someone like to make a motion to approve?
I so move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All those opposed, nay? Okay, the minutes have been approved. Guess we will start with the old business, gas tank update and pump replacement.
Okay, I just an hour ago spoke to the gasoline equipment people about the pump, and we are on track with that to, the tank is scheduled to be delivered to them mid-December, and they are optimistic that they may start before the end of the calendar year on the tank replacement. If they don't or are not able to do that because of the holiday schedule and things, then they will most likely be here in the month of January and get that done. So that's really the only update as I have at this point, but everything appears to be on track.
Great. Any other discussion on the gas tank?
No,
Okay,
thank you.
we'll move on to the pickleball lights.
Under the pickleball lights, I've been working on this most of the summer and not being able to get very far, but as you know, I've been working with Galar Electric under the pretense that they were going to put together a quote and help with lights for the pickleball lights and also the multi-purpose courts, tennis and pickleball combination courts, and the basketball courts. It's been a rather slow process trying to work through all the dynamics, but they finally just last week came back in and they gave me a $80,000 number, and that's with them doing some sort of a donation. So I asked for them to meet with me and see what they're donating and try to put a dollar value to that, as well as whether or not we can scale back the project and just do certain courts or a certain area this year and build off of that, or is there any part of that that my staff can do and save labor cost and things like that. And so I've not had that meeting with them yet, but I hope to have that in the next couple of weeks.
Let's move on to farmers market updates.
Would you like to talk on that?
I'll let you. I'll chime in.
So I think things are going along pretty well with the farmers market. Since our last meeting, we had we got the trail in the park from the bathrooms going north to the existing blacktop trail. We got that paved. We were able to do that through funding from the Friends of the Park and a substantial corporate donation from Ferris Paving. it turned out really, really nice, and we were able to also, we did that on what we call the old roadbed into the park. When the park was built in the 70s, that area was the original road into the park, and Pearl Street, as it exists now by the library, did not exist. So the original entrance goes right in and past that shelter and back to the bathroom building and things, and that's what the park consisted of in the 70s. So we paved right over that old gravel roadbed, and we did it. I worked with the paving company, and we were able to pave it substantially thicker so that we could support the weight of those heavy fire trucks and things like that if they want to do a touch a truck or they want to come in and do a special event. So really pleased with the way that turned out. My staff spent the last week and a half or two putting dirt on the sides and along the sides and filling that in and getting it seeded. So I think you'll see a big improvement with that as we get further into the fall, and I think it'll help a lot with the future farmers markets and the Lights Over Morris festivals.
Do you want to tell them what came through last weekend?
Oh, last Saturday during our farmers market, we had a group of tandem bicyclists that had contacted me actually well over a year ago and wanted to use our park as a stopping point or a resting point for them to come. And so they came to us. They started in Westfield. It was bicyclists from all over the Midwest, and they came to us from Westfield and up through I'll call it the west side of Noblesville and up into Cicero. We had 220 tandem bicyclists, or 440 people, stop at the park, and they did so right during the middle of our farmers market, and I think it was well received and well attended, and that I think it was a good crowd. That bicycle group also, according to conversations we had with them last fall, I voiced concerns with them that I had concerns about 200 bicyclists or 440 people showing up to use our facilities, about overwhelming our restroom facilities and being prepared for that, and our shelter area and taking over that area and any trash and debris. So they graciously made a $200 donation to the park, and I was able to provide one of our teenagers from the marina. We provided a boy and a girl to monitor and maintain the bathrooms during that time, and keep the trash emptied. And so it worked really well. At one time we had lines outside both bathrooms, probably 50 people deep. So over a course of about an hour we were bombarded, but it was kind of neat to see and interesting, you know. So it worked well. Bite your tongue. Most of these people don't want to be put in that group.
That's true. How about the 2026 dock rental rates?
I'll let Sarah speak to that if it's okay.
So we kind of went over it last meeting, you know, thinking about numbers for this next season. As a reminder, the 2025 season, the resident rate was $1,800. The non-resident rate was $2,550. We had 41 resident slips this season and 19 non-resident. So Jimmy and I had been talking, and I know we talked last year some about a goal would be to kind of decrease the gap in between non-resident and resident. That's $750. So between the two of us, I'll just kind of give you the numbers we were thinking, and then if anyone has any thoughts on that. For this next season, we thought resident rate $2,000, non-resident rate $2,600. That would be a $200 increase for residents and $50 for non-residents. However, that would cut the gap by $150. That would, if we had the same amount of resident and non-resident renters, that would be an increased revenue of $9,150 compared to this year. So that would take us from, this year we made $122,250. If we went with these numbers and had the same exact amount of renters, it would be $131,400. So just over $9,000 increase. Does anyone have any thoughts on that?
Do we prioritize who gets what by the wait list? Is there a resident, non, or is it just simply when you request to be on the wait list, if there's 100 people on, you're now 101?
Right, yeah, that's
Okay.
how it is.
Sarah, would you talk a little bit about what the pricing is with our competitors? Or our,
Yes.
not our competition, but the other
The other
marina to
marina.
the south, and how we fare with that?
So Morris Marina down by Wolfie's, their cheapest slip for the 2025 season is half of a double well, and that was $2,245. So their cheapest was over our resident rate and just under our non-resident rate for the season. Their next cheapest goes to just over 2,700, so that's more than our non-resident rate, and they just climb all the way up to 6,300 is their most expensive slip down there. So we're right around their low end, and I mean, with prices increasing, you can assume that next season theirs would be probably close to 2,500, I'd say, for their cheapest.
And how many do we have on a waiting list today?
It's just under 290. I could pull it up, but
No, don't pull it up, that's,
I was gonna say, I think I want to say like 287-ish.
it was
But-
284 or 5 a couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's not slowing people down when they call in, and I tell them right now that it's at least a 6-year wait, just based off how it's gone since I've been there, and that doesn't really turn people away. They just figure they might as well get on it, so.
I don't know if the board wants where our responsibility lies with this, but personally, I like these numbers. I think we're gonna get a little bit of pushback if anybody pays enough attention to it, being that if I heard right, there is a larger increase, so to say, in the residential rate. But I also like that while we're closing the gap, there's still enough of a gap to say that we are protecting our residents as well. So as just one opinion on the board, I personally, I like these numbers. I think there's fairness within the numbers. Obviously, they have to go up. And with the wait list, I think we'll do okay.
I concur with everything that Clayton said. I think it is fair pricing, especially compared to what's available down at Morse.
And the 2,000 resident, that's still less than Morse, even though it's a $200 increase.
Anybody else? Go ahead, Dan.
Still thinking.
Okay.
I mean, I can hear some of the conversations in regards to adding additional costs, and I don't think they're unreasonable to, look at 1,800 and then, looking at 2,000 and 2,600, just for the fact that I know inflation continues to eat into profitability, as well as you're going to have ongoing maintenance. I think we'll probably hear, though, from the conversation that people are very concerned about some of the other escalating costs that they have, even though I know these are outside of the everyday costs. But I'm going to guess we'll get some feedback on that based upon that we know that water rates went up, sewer rates went up, and now we have food and beverage taxes and some other things that are, and potential taxes coming in the future, but I like the idea that we're narrowing that gap. I still think, that's something we want to continue to work on over the next year to 2 years to try to get that down to whatever number the board thinks appropriate, whether that's $300 or $400, that gap should be, but no, I think they're good numbers.
Dennis, do you have anything you wanna comment on or add based on being the park liaison? I think it's only fair to ask you.
You turn your light on there when you get ready, please.
I don't want to. I don't.
I'm one of the resident people. So I have vested interest, obviously, in that park. And I don't necessarily disagree with anybody's comments. I do think, from a perspective of all the costs that we are putting on residents, I think residents do, because of local income tax and other things, provide more to the town. I think it makes sense to give them the discount, whether that gap is right or wrong. I think that's just an opinion too, but I think you compare our cost with Morse, and those are double wells down there. I think, because I looked at all of those as well when they did it. I think the single wells, like ours are, and ours are 20 feet, I believe. I think they are. I think their price is around 2,600 for those.
Single well,
$2,750 for the single well. Okay.
and that's
So-
for this year.
That's what,
That's for 2025.
yeah,
We don't know what.
I know. So, no, that's just a perspective that for the contribution of the residents versus the non-residents, I think it's awarded properly, but that's for your decision, so.
So I will just say that Sarah and I have talked a lot about this over the last several months, and continues to be a topic of conversation for us several times a week. And I know we've had substantial increases in these numbers since the time we became involved. And I will just say that I don't really like these numbers myself. I was hoping to have a year where we could do maybe a $50 increase or something like that, and maybe we wouldn't get pushback from the residents, because I think we will. But I think it's worthy of noting that we don't get a lot of pushback from the residents. We get one or two people that complain, and most of them just come in and write their checks. And we get a few people, I think, that are serious when they complain, and others that are just ribbing us to give us a hard time. And I don't think they're real serious. But there's some facts that I want to go over, and that is that we have a huge waiting list. We're cheaper than anybody around us. There's a lot of other places on the lake that are renting, homeowners that are renting spaces and getting as much as $5,000 a year, which isn't right, but that's beyond my control. But I think the most important thing for me to remind you of is every year my budget gets tighter and tighter for the parks, and every year the income over the last few years has not been what we projected or what was projected. And so we've next year's budget for me and my operating budget is gonna be tighter than it's ever been. And I think we've got to continue to look as a whole at ways to generate more revenue, whether that be, more community building rental, more dock rental, more, I don't know what that looks like, but we've always, and I'm always looking at ways to generate more revenue and see what our options are. Dennis and I've had many conversations, and Dan and I have had conversations, trying to figure out over time how to generate more revenue and what that looks like. And there's a multitude of ways that we're talking about, but we haven't been able to act on those yet, and we're still trying to work through those and hopefully get some answers through the clerk treasurer and the council and things like that. But in terms of my budget, we just got to stay on course, and nobody likes an increase, but I think I do feel like given the current state of the parks and the budget and things, that these are good numbers, and Sarah and I, that's what I'd like to see this board pass.
And I do think we're playing a double-edged sword. I mean, we want to protect our residents and protect their financials, but to me, renting a boat slip is the same as paying a golf cart registration fee. You don't like the price and you don't want to pay it, you don't have to rent the boat slip. And I say that in the terms of, we want our residents to rent the boat slips. We want to keep our prices fair. We want to show on paper that we're being fair. But in retrospect, if you still want your boat slip, these are our prices this year. As long as we are working with the residents to make sure it's not absurd, skyrocketing prices.
Any other comments on the dock rental fees?
Yes, I have one comment. If you don't live on the lake and you don't have a boat slip, and you have a boat, and you are bringing your boat every single week and dropping it in at the south end of the lake, and paying the fee to drop it off, and during the summer when your kids are out of school, if you're bringing that boat in every single day, or let's just say you're bringing it in 5 days a week, certainly the weekends, because our weekends are very, very busy. If you just add all those fees up, and that fee does not tend to decrease either every year at that end of the lake for the, I forget what they call the fee. If you add that fee up, it may come pretty close to what this number is if you just stop and think about it. I don't know what the fee is anymore, but I know that they have raised it every single year for the people that I know that drop their boats in and pull them out and then drop them in again and again and again. So, we really may not be very far off. That's just my thought in the whole scheme of things.
Well, one final statement would be, and I don't want to offend anybody by saying this, but because I do believe that taking care of the residents and giving them a discount is the right thing to do, but I don't know how we came to the point that we have today and it's been that big. As far as I know, there is no other event in town or no other thing you do in this entire town or any town where they give you that kind of substantial discount because you live in town. If you go to, we don't have a golf course, so I can't use that for example, but if you have a golf course in Noblesville, I don't think you get a discount because you're a Noblesville resident. If you live in Westfield or Carmel, I don't think you get a discount because you're a resident there and play golf. So while I agree with the discount for boat dock rentals, I'm going to take the cop-out phrase here for a minute and say I have to run this like a business and try to come up with what's fair. And so that's what I'm trying to do.
I don't think that's a cop-out, Jimmy, and I have another thought that I was going to throw at you all about this particular subject, and that was, have you ever thought of doing a multi-contract with the residents and giving them a discount for signing up for 2 years or 3 years instead of just one at a time? Just a thought. I don't know if that's a bookkeeping nightmare for you. I don't see where it would be because it's a matter of record. But it's just another thought for you to be able to give them maybe a discount because they're paying you up front to rent that slip. And the only proviso you would have to have in that sort of an agreement with them would be the fact that if something happened to them, they lost their boat, somebody lost their life, somebody in the family died, and they wouldn't have the capability to use it, you'd have to refund them something, but just a thought to throw it out there.
So I'll share with you very,
Yeah.
very simply, no, I have not thought about a multi-year contract, but it does have a certain amount of appeal, but it instantly brings me a lot of questions that I'd want to run past the town's attorney
Sure,
and things
sure.
like that. But I will make a note here, and we can at least have a conversation to see if that makes sense, something we want to consider in the future.
I will say that I know Carmel offers residents rates, reduction rates for their water park.
Okay,
Because I have friends who partake in that,
that makes sense.
so.
That makes real good sense.
Well, I think it's a case, I don't think there's anyone here, sitting here, that wants to increase costs for residents or non-residents, but I think there is, as you mentioned, a cost of doing business, and in this particular case, knowing that SB1, we don't know the impact of that to funding for the community at this particular time and what that looks like over the next few years. But also, I know that, you have increased cost and labor, materials, time, and everything along with that. So I think we have to continue to move forward with, some kind of rate increases and determine, over the years what that might be, and whether, that comes up in the next conversation next year, whether that's a percentage every year so it's consistent. Everyone will know what to expect in the future or what that might look like. But, I think to your point, we have to continue to see increases just to offset the cost and the future repairs that we're going to face down there, because that is coming in time.
It is.
Would you like to see a motion tonight? And would you entertain a motion tonight? All right. I would like to make a motion to approve the 2026 dock rental rates for a resident at $2,000 and non-resident for $2,600.
I'll second that motion.
All those in it, I forget what I was just, all those that, what do I
In
say?
favor?
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries, and the dock rental rates for 2026 have been approved. Great, thank you, everyone. Great input. The next thing on our agenda is the Street Festival, which was on August 23rd.
So we had the street festival, as she said, on the 23rd. We did that this year for the first time in Community Park. As you know, it was done there because of the potential or the ongoing construction downtown and the things not being completed there. So we made the decision, or the Friends of the Park and the OTC made the decision several months ago to hold it in the park. Quite frankly, I can't say enough about it. I think the event went off very well. The weather was great. The crowd was great. Lots and lots of feedback from people that liked it there better than having it uptown. From the Friends of the Park, I'll speak on their behalf. I think they liked it there, and it made it a lot easier. We have restroom facilities there. We have electrical facilities. We have water. We have everything we need right there to have a very successful event. And I'll finish with, we had 3,100 people there, of which were all of adults. Those numbers come from cell phone data that I've given you before from some different events, but that includes no children. So if you, I this is just a guess, but I would say we had between 4,000 and 5,000 people there. And if you were there and fortunate enough to stop by for any length of time, I think it was a very good event. And I will go so far as to say that I think every intention is to go right back there again next year and not try to bring it back uptown. And if you look at the dynamics from downtown with the opening of the new Red Bridge Bistro and the parking that they're using in the area and things like that, a lot of the area that they're now using on a daily basis was an area that we used when we had these street festivals. And so it's just a lot more difficult to have them up here. And I think that the Friends of the Park, their intent for the future is to maybe rename it so it's not a street festival and hold it there next year. But really good night, really good day. Crowd was great, the weather was great, very well attended.
You gonna call it something else?
They are looking to rename it and having discussions about it. Kind of seems a little strange to have it as Cicero Street Festival in the park. So I've heard, we've been throwing around ideas, and obviously I've been hearing those, but
Yeah.
maybe Cicero Summer Festival or some Cicero, we don't know, but that's in the discussions. But I do believe every intention is just to keep it right there because it works so well.
Is that a decision that is Friends of the Park, or do we have to also get a town approval of that? Or is it just Cicero Friends of the Park makes the decision?
So I believe the way it was always done in the past, it was the OTC, and the OTC would get the council's blessing and the department head's blessing because we were doing it downtown. But now that the OTC is essentially dissolved or went in with the park, and the Friends of the Park have basically absorbed that role, and now that we're doing it in the park, I really don't know that we need to go back to the council to get their blessing. I think it'd be more just, let's figure out what their plan is, and then I'll let this body know what date they've selected and what the intent is, and then I'll let the council know. But I believe since it's in the park and it was so well received, that we'll just schedule it and give them the information and invite them all to attend.
Okay. Sounds great. Next event, the Labor Day Car Show.
Well, the Labor Day Car Show was this last Monday. The weather was beautiful. I don't know who got to attend and who didn't, but it was I'll let you speak to it too, but it was a wonderful event. We had 251 registered cars. Not a new record by any means, but obviously a very, very good year. We did some things with the Friends of the Park and all the volunteers and the vendors, and to shuttle all those people that got there early in the morning up to Hayden's dance studio to help free up parking in the park and to allow more visitors, and just overall day, it was a wonderful thing. From my perspective, just to give you an idea, and we don't have numbers back yet, but we've asked for the cell phone data so we can figure out how many people we had, and what that attendance looks like and where those people are coming from. But from my perspective, I started cooking at about 7:15 in the morning, and I didn't finish until 3 o'clock.
He was a beast.
We cooked, served, and sold, all with the exception of just a few little things at the end. We cooked 400 pork chops, 400 hot dogs, 400 breakfast sausages,
200 brats.
300, about 325.
Oh.
We bought 400, but we had
That's
about
right.
75 we didn't cook. And we had 15 or 16 gallons of sausage gravy that we sold. I think she said 200 cinnamon rolls that she made. I just want to say it was a really good day. The weather was great. Nothing but positive.
I think we made between, was it $7,000 and $8,000? I forget.
Yes.
Yeah. So it was a great day.
It was a great turnout. I saw somebody there just to look at the cars. I saw 'em looking at all the name plaques. I mean, there are more and more, some of these smaller car shows, if you attend them regularly, you're seeing the same things, the same locals. And there were a lot of outside people bringing their cars.
Yeah.
Not to mention, I was seeing people who I know from all over the state that had
Right.
come into this car show. So definitely a good success.
People were there earlier than ever.
Yeah.
6:30 or 6, they were out there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Next year will be the 35th year, so they're planning to do a few things to enhance that mark, and we'll see what that looks like. But all in all, just a really good day.
Yeah. Should we move on to new business? We have grant opportunities, the Amy Shanklin contract.
So I think tonight, all I'm looking for is to have a discussion and to inform you and give you some information about a grant opportunity, or talk about grant opportunities in the future. So Dan and I met a few weeks ago with a grant writer. This started a couple months ago. We talked to Tina Mendenhall, who's been writing and assisting the town of Cicero for many, many years on some big grants. And Tina set us up with a gal from Noblesville. Her name is Amy Shanklin. Amy has a grant writing company, and that's what she does, her and a few others in her office. And she writes grants for local communities. It can be very simple, small grants to very large scale grants. And we had a lengthy conversation with her. I met with her again, and I will say that I think she could do us a lot of good. She's written a lot of grants for Arcadia in the past. She's written grants for Tipton, specifically some playground stuff, some things for the park, some small stuff for Arcadia in terms of playground equipment, and now trying to put in a pocket park in downtown Arcadia and things like that. But I think she'd just be a good fit for us to write some grants. So in talking to her, she sent us a thing, and she would like to come in and do a study, if you will, and give us a report for the overall town. And she would evaluate and talk with all the department heads, Parks Department, Street Department, Police Department, even the Clerk Treasurer's Office, and anybody else, and try to submit us an analysis for what she could do for the town as a whole on potential grants in the future. And we don't have a grant writer at this time. The town did employ a gal for several years and paid her a part-time fee or part-time salary to write grants, and she was able to get us a few grants through the years and were pretty successful. But Sarah and I do everything we can to find every grant we can, but there's just so much out there that we don't qualify for, or we can't. They're for a nonprofit organization and you have to own the property, or it's not for, their grants are only available for low-income people. And so, yes, we can write grants, and Sarah and I, we've wrote some grants and we've been successful with some grants, but I think having a grant writer is a lot like trying to do electrical work at your house. If you're not an electrician, sometimes you just shouldn't do it. And yes, you can do the simple things, but there's a time and a place where it makes sense to hire an electrician. In this case, I think the town would be wise in some of these cases to look for a grant writer who specializes in that field. And so in a nutshell, she wants $2,000 to come in and do this assessment for the entire town. And then she thinks it'll be, currently she's charging Arcadia, I think, if I got this right, $1,000 to Arcadia and Tipton she's getting a month, and then she's getting between $1,500 and $2,000 a month from Tipton to redo their things. and to write grants. And for that work, she promises to write at least 2 grants a month. If she writes more than that in 1 month, when she's not opposed to, then she readily admits, I'll take off a little bit of time the next month, or maybe the next month not spend so much. But I think some grants, it's easy to say, I don't know how you can sit and say, I'll write 2 grants a month, when she could, some of them she might be able to write 3, and some other months, depending on what it is, she may only be able to get 1. But I think it seems to be a partnership and a relationship that's worked well for others, and I think I would like to try that. So Dan and I met and talked about that, and then Dan suggested we find out if the town council is not interested in doing an entire assessment or can't swing the money to do that. What would it cost for her to do the assessment strictly on the Parks Department? So I went back and I talked to her, and she came back with a number of $1,750 for the assessment for the Parks Department, and then I was rather non-committal on the monthly fee because she wanted to wait until she did the assessment. So based on those numbers, it only makes sense to do the entire assessment. I think that that's something I would like to see the town commit to. At this point, I'd like to just get your input and get your thoughts, and then my intent is to talk to the council at our staff meeting this next Thursday night and have some open conversation, and then relay input from this meeting to them and try to see what we can get going. Can you add to that, Dan?
I was just going to say, I think that the people that have that exclusive talent in grant writing are a real select group of people, and I think that they not only are good at writing grants because they're familiar with all of the requirements, with all of the paperwork, with the time schedules, the timing. There's a lot that goes into it, not just finding the grants, but qualifying you as an entity to be able to be eligible for one. That's part of the deal. But the other side of the deal is also that they have so many friends and acquaintances within that whole industry that if they don't know about a certain grant, they talk a lot to each other, and they find out that, oh, you know what, there's a grant available that maybe that little town you're working for up there in middle Indiana might be eligible for. Maybe you need to look into that. That's the thing I love about a professional grant writer, the fact that that's all they do. They're devoted to it, they're dedicated to it, and I think most of them that I've met, and I know Tina Mendenhall pretty well, are just really good at it. So I'm all in favor of it. Just, that's my take.
Thank you.
So I think the other piece of it is the opportunities that might be out there that none of us know about. Because I think that's the big piece that I struggle with, and over the years, and I've started looking at grants, is I don't even know where to look sometimes. And, you know, what are those opportunities? And if I hear things correctly, we're probably looking at about $20,000 a year for this grant writer as a total, including the $2,000 fee up front. And, you know, it started out as a grant opportunity for the parks. And which, as we all know, as a park board, that is one of the things that we're challenged with, to go out and get those opportunities. And not that, you know, we want to spend an additional $20,000, but if that accomplished the goal, I think we're doing what we were assigned to do. The other piece is, as Jim mentioned, I did, you know, say, if we took out the town piece of it, what would that look like? Because the meeting was originally set up to have the parks discussion, but as you know, as part of the town, I had to ask the question, you know, would you look at additional opportunities for the town? So coming back, and then as Jim mentioned, you know, her deduction was about $250, not to include the town. And I would like to think that the town council would like the opportunity to pursue grants as well as part of this project, and if nothing else, to look at the study of what those might be for the individual departments, because we're all struggling with money right now and finding those opportunities. And I think any opportunities to get some additional dollars for the parks of their town would be welcomed. Now, the only thing that I will say to that is, you know, we will have to come up with matching dollars at some point. Whether that's at 50% or 25%, I don't know, and we certainly would have to have the town council's support on that. But I think it's a good opportunity for us to, if nothing else, to give it a trial for a year, if she's willing to sign up for a year and see what that looks like. I think it could well pay for itself.
I agree, Dan, and you know, the other thing that I'm not speaking for the town, but as a suggestion, maybe instead of, you gave that number, Jimmy, of a $250 discount from that overall initial assessment fee, that maybe if the town decided to do it and come on board with the town and all its departments at all, that maybe in order to, since we're all tight budget-wise, maybe in order to meet her fee, they could assess a small amount to each department's budget to cover that, instead of just expecting the town to come out with $2,000 a month. Say if the Parks Department is a certain amount of the town budget and their own, they take that into consideration. Same with streets, utilities, police. Just talking about how, splitting the pie up a little bit so the town doesn't think it's just such a huge dollar amount for them to cover that they've never had in their budget before. Just a suggestion.
I'm sure Cicero Friends of the Park would want to contribute also. I can't totally speak 100% for them, but yeah, I think we could contribute some money towards that, since it's for the Parks Department and the town.
I think your comparison to an electrician was fair. I think of grant writing more like a comparison to an attorney. Working with a larger municipality, I see some of the grants that go out, and it's all about verbiage and technicality. So I'm 100% on board.
I don't think we need a vote or anything, more just a consensus that I can take back to the council and let them know we've talked about it here and we all agree, so. Dennis, do you have anything you want to add to it, or you just wait until next week?
I'd probably like to see what kind of success she's had with Arcadia and Tipton.
I can email you some stuff, as well as she's very open and quick to respond and answer questions.
Well, not from her.
I've got some stuff that she has already sent me on what grants she was able to get in the past, and kind of gives another part of her bio and where she's done and her successes.
Okay.
So, if you'll please remind me and I'll send it to you.
Okay. I might also add for everybody, we have found at the council that turning the mics on and off sometimes works when we remember it. What we're doing now is just leaving them on. And if you need to cough or whisper something, shut it off for that. That way, and if we get that, then dial down your volume a little bit.
Mine's all the way down.
Is it really? That's why I haven't been able to hear you.
I don't know if that's my mic doing the squealing there or not.
I'm guessing that probably we have enough volume from all of them that we're overloading the system.
Yeah,
And sometimes it does that, but it's also, as Mr. Johnson said, you know, as a council, there's 7 members, and normally they can leave them on, at least 5 of those members, and not be an issue, so.
Well, I'm just not trying to be a stickler. I just think sometimes it makes it easier because everybody keeps preaching.
Yeah.
Do what you want to. I just try and.
No, it makes sense, and clearly
Yeah.
still a learning curve.
If you hear that whistling, keep turning yours down a little bit.
Okay.
If it's up, then maybe that sometimes takes care of it.
Any other comments on the grant opportunity? Okay, we'll move on to the September 14th spaghetti dinner.
So September 14th is the Cicero Friends of the Park Spaghetti Dinner that they've done in the last couple of years. If you don't know, that is a dinner put on by the Friends of the Park is a free will donation. There's no charge to come and eat. The food is all donated by local merchants, specifically DeLulo's, Boathouse, Cicero Market, and some others too. They're not, but those are the main ones. But that dinner on Sunday afternoon is specifically designed as a fundraiser for the police and fire department. So all proceeds from that dinner that day get donated to the police and fire department, and as part of that, they get donated to them. Last couple of years, they've been able to give $2,000 to both the police department and $2,000 to the fire department. So if you are not busy on that day, please come out and eat. And then there'll be a concert and a Jeep show in the park as we get through the end of that spaghetti dinner. There'll be a concert on the fishing pier.
5:30 to 8 is the concert. And also I think the Jeep cruise-in is around that time also, ends at 8.
We start serving spaghetti at 4 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
time is what?
4 to 7 is the spaghetti dinner, or is
Yes.
it 4 to 7 is the spaghetti dinner? And then 5:30 to 8 is the concert by the Mulligans. And I think it's 5 to 8 for the Jeep cruise-in. And I think there's also fire trucks, and it's almost like a touch-a-truck happening also. Okay. Are there any other comments?
I have a question for our superintendent. And the question has to do with utilization of any spare property in the parks. One is to plant some fruit trees, just throwing it out there. I'm not asking for anybody to do anything, but think about it. Throw out some fruit trees and maybe plant one community garden, one big one. Ask for volunteers from the town to chip in a fee to buy seeds, plants, whatever it would take to use it. The only thing for that is that we need a water source sort of nearby to be able to water and take care of it and weed it, but it would be the community's responsibility to actually take care of it. Maybe with some help from your ladies that do a wonderful job with all the flowers around the parks. I'm just throwing those two ideas out there for consideration.
Let me break it down into 2 parts. The fruit tree thing, I like the idea of. I'd just be very hesitant and want to think out very methodically where we plant those.
Exactly.
Because having an apple tree in close vicinity of the playground equipment would be bad
Oh,
news.
yeah, no.
Having a cherry tree that the kids are running through would be bad news. I think it's very important just to be very methodical and well thought out where we plant those. In terms of the community garden, the very first summer I was here, I talked to a lot of people about a community garden. There seemed to be a substantial interest in that. But then I went to a couple of the churches and talked to them about how their community garden was going, and they quit doing theirs because they had a big garden. The one example was at the Cicero Christian Church, and the volunteers each year got less and less, and the burden on a few people got bigger and bigger and harder to manage. And then they had a terrible problem with corn and tomatoes coming on at the right time, and somebody came in and cleaned it all out in one night.
Somebody?
And that happened to them on multiple occasions where people did the wrong thing as a community garden and came in and took everything or took too much or weren't considerate of others. We've talked about it. I considered, still would think about doing stuff like that in the future, and I think it'd be really neat. But I think before I would commit to it, I would want come to me and assure me that they're invested in it and they would help make sure that it gets done right the first year. I don't wanna go out and say, I'm gonna plant a community garden, now come help me make this happen. It's something we should talk about now if we're gonna do it for next year. But then I also, very simply put, right now, today, I'll stress today, I don't know that I have a good place to do that, to have a community garden. Because almost every square inch of what I have, is taken up with different events at certain times of the year. If I put one here, then I'm taking away carnival space during the 4th of July. And if I put it here, I'm taking away this and this. But I'm optimistic that those opportunities are gonna change soon. Maybe there'll still be an opportunity.
Okay, I just wanted to bring it up.
I agree. Like I said, Sarah and I talked about it many times. Now, for those of you that, I'll say, we can end the meeting, I'll tell you more.
Was a community garden ever mentioned on the community survey? Like the farmer's market was always a popular choice?
I don't think so.
Okay, I was just curious.
I don't remember that being one of the items.
Any other discussions or questions? Someone like to make a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn our September 4th meeting.
Second? Meeting is adjourned.